We just watched Ohio State football's 15th practice of the spring game, obviously, here at Ohio Stadium. Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Stephen Means and Andrew Gillis. And we've obviously been tracking this quarterback battle from the beginning, going back to the Cotton Bowl. Then Will Howard jumps in, Devon Brown, Lincoln Kienholz, two true freshmen coming in. Where do things stand after 15 practices? It was going to tell us a lot about who's potentially going to be quarterbacking this spring, or so we thought. This fall, or so we thought. Stephen, as you assess what you saw after we got some viewing windows, we got a full practice on Friday, we got a couple other extended looks, and obviously we got all day today. Devon Brown and Will Howard played only 2 series in the first half. Who do you think is leading this quarterback battle right now?
Yeah, that alone is telling you where the separation is at this point, the fact that they didn't play in the second half at all. I think Will Howard's in the lead, and it's because all spring, anytime we were in there, we saw Devon Brown going first. So why did Will Howard start today? What?
So was Lincoln Kienholz ahead of Devon Brown because he went second?
Did he? I thought. Well, was that the twos though? That might have been with the twos. The second time the offense went out there. But I don't. The way Ryan Day had started to talk about Will Howard later in the spring camp, also the starting thing today, but more importantly, the way Ryan Day had started to talk about Will Howard, maybe it's starting to click for him. Maybe that's what's starting to push us ahead. You went and got a guy out of the transfer portal, so maybe you were already thinking he was going to be your starter anyway. But you weren't never just going to hand him the job. Things had to start clicking. And unlike with Justin Fields in 2019 when he transferred in, there was actually a good football player he was going to have to compete with once it started clicking. And it does seem like things are starting to click for Will Howard. I thought Devon Brown still had the better game, but it does start to seem like Will Howard, is if it's clicking, now he can start to use the fall to build some separation if it feels like he's starting to pull ahead right now.
Andrew, do you agree with that?
I think so. I think I mentioned this on a podcast that we did recently where I think you're talking about a guy who has been in the program now. This is his 3rd year in the program. You're talking about a dude who had been here like 3 weeks, couple of weeks, and dude hasn't been here very long, and now it's starting to click, it sounds like. And I think you're right, Stephen, kind of the way that people are talking about it, specifically Ryan Day, you start to see it. I think you saw it today where like this defense is going to be really good, and what does Will Howard do? He's going to give you that running element, and I think you're going to avoid the turnovers with him. I think that was something that I kind of look for today. I think that would be important. You want a veteran guy who's basically just going to show up and not really kind of do you in by doing, kind of terrible things that you wouldn't expect, like interceptions, taking bad sacks. That's just not what Will Howard's going to give you as a veteran guy. So I think Will Howard has kind of elevated himself over these last couple of weeks. And that's kind of what you might have thought was going to happen. I think if Devon Brown was going to make a move, it would have had to have been very early. But I think Will Howard is starting to come around. It took some time to get used to the offense, to get used to his teammates, to get used to Columbus in general. Like it's a big change for a guy like that after spending some time in Manhattan, Kansas. So now he's back, and I just think he's kind of pulled ahead just ever so slightly, maybe 60%, 40%, something like that. That's where I lean right now.
I think you guys are right, and there's a lot of indications that Will Howard would be at least slightly ahead right now. The only thing that is giving me a problem is anytime I've watched the two of them play quarterback, Will Howard has never looked like a better quarterback than Devon Brown, and that included today. Devon Brown had 2 possessions. He led scoring drives on both of them. Now, Will Howard did get them down to the 14. They threw into the end zone 3 times. All 3 were really well defended. They settled for a field goal there. That was very close to being a touchdown drive, but wasn't a touchdown drive. And Devon Brown did it the second time against mostly scrubs, although he was using only scrubs. Sorry, guys, like to use that term. I'm not using it flippantly, but he was throwing to walk-ons for his touchdown. So all those things you just said are true, Andrew, except Devon Brown has made real strides since last year as far as limiting those. Like, we saw a lot of spring football last year, and Devon Brown had true turnover issues, including into the preseason. Hasn't had them this spring that we have seen. Now, there's a lot of practice we haven't seen. And I do think that just kind of the tone you've been getting from Ryan Day is that he is starting to see some of the things from Will Howard that is the reason that they went to the portal to get him, because of the stability they thought he would bring. I just think that Devon Brown has shown that same stability in practices, no worse than that same stability. In some cases, he's looked even more stable than Will Howard has, but he does have 3 years in the program as opposed to 3 months. So I think this summer is going to be huge because neither of these guys, as Chip Kelly was talking about today, it's not like they get to go in and work one-on-one with these quarterbacks all summer. It's up to what these guys do all summer. And if Will Howard has a lead right now, he can emphasize that, possibly with just the experience he has of being a starting quarterback and what that means, what you have to then go out and do in the summer to get yourself ready to start in the fall. But I don't think there's a huge gap here. I think in last year, we came out of the spring, I think, thinking Kyle McCord had a clear advantage, and then Devon Brown passed him in the offseason. Even coming back from an injury. So I'm just keeping that in mind, that if both those guys are still on this roster this fall, and at this point we think they will be, I think either one of these guys can still win this quarterback job. I think the thing I'm still looking for as I watched today was, special when you see it. We've seen it with C.J. Stroud. We've seen it with other guys in the past year. And I think you're still waiting for a special element to really show itself with either of these guys. And you want to say that maybe they don't need that with as much talent as there is everywhere else. This was a pretty great defense last year. It was a pretty talented running game last year. They didn't win everything they wanted to win last year. And we kept thinking that maybe special quarterback play was the missing element. So where does the special thing kick in for one of these two guys? And if it's for Will Howard, if it's just a matter of catching up with knowledge of the offense and feel for the offense and all those things, then maybe we see it this fall, or this summer, I should say, when preseason camp starts. We're going to talk a lot more about this on Buckeye Talk, and get the text 614-350-3215, because just because the spring game is over doesn't mean the news and the analysis ends. We're going to keep coming at you. Transfer portal opens Tuesday. There's probably going to be some news that starts coming in inward and outward for Ohio State pretty soon from cleveland.com.